Angel Mounds. It is 8 miles southeast of Evansville, and it is one of 16 historic sites and museums in Indiana. This historic national monument has been here for over 1,000 years. In 1964, it was designated a National Historic Landmark. How did the Mississippian people survive? What was their main source of food, protection against the elements, etc.?
Ooh, well, that is a lofty question. I guess we'll start with sustenance and talk about their diet. These folks here, they hunted, they gathered, and they farmed their food, and that's kind of what makes them unique. Is they were the first large-scale farmers in the area. So they planted a variety of crops, but their main crops were known as the Three Sisters, and that was corn, beans, and squash. And then also they hunted, and they would basically anything that was in the area at the time, deer, wild turkey, beaver, waterfowl, anything, you name it. And then gathering, of course, they natural plants that grow in the wild, nuts, berries, things of that nature. Regarding the elements, they used what's known as wattle and daub structures, which is a wood-based construction. They would cut down trees and set up posts, and in between those posts weave different twigs, and then they would put on this clay mud grass mixture around that, and it would kind of have like an adobe style look to it. And so that was the type of structures that they used, and of course there was usually a hearth in the center for fire, things like that. So that's how they would protect themselves against the elements, as well as clothing, of course. They'd use animal hides for clothing or blankets, and different plants that you can weave into textile.
The Mississippian tribe that lived here was a chiefdom, meaning a chief controls all of the tribe. They made a lot of pottery for bowls, and they also made coins, marbles, and bottles. They made canoes to travel and hunt in the Ohio River with, where they found beavers to kill, skin, and eat. They also hunted deer using a bow and arrow, which they were excellent at. They didn't just eat meat, however. They also ate berries, fruits, and different vegetables they harvested from their gardens. They used the hide from the animals they killed to wear and make blankets out of. And how advanced were some of the things they made?
Pretty darn advanced in my opinion. A lot of the knowledge has been lost, so although a lot of what they did is considered, say, primitive technology, that's what it's known as. Primitive almost gives the wrong connotation. But they made a lot of tools out of stone and wood and shell, and like I said, obviously they knew how to plant food and make cloth from various plant fibers, things like that. So in my opinion, they were a pretty advanced culture, and that's also reflected in the mounds that were built. There was obviously some sort of system of organization here where some sort of higher officials had people underneath them who came together to create these mounds.
The Angel Mounds site is vast, covering 100 acres. It is named after the Angel family who owned the property in early 19th century before designated a historical site. Here are some of the mounds and things you will see at the Angel Mounds site. And did they have any recreational activities, things they did for fun?
Yeah, as best as we can tell, and um, one of the games in particular that they played that's a lot of fun and has a fun name is called Chunky, and this is where they would roll a chunky stone. It's a disc-shaped stone. They would roll it and throw spears at this stone, and there are different rules to Chunky, but one of the rules is you throw the spear to the spot where you think the stone will stop rolling. Um, Different games. They play dice with animal bones and things like that. Most of their games, though, did revolve around teaching some sort of life skill, like that Chunky game that I mentioned would teach you how to throw at, say, like a moving animal and gauge where to throw your spear, certain things like that.
Here are some examples of the houses they made. They made them out of wooden posts set a few feet across from each other. The posts are covered with wattle and daub, a loose weaving of sticks covered with a mud and grass plaster. What evidence is given that the people's civilization dated back before 100 CE?
Well, this site was occupied from approximately 1000 to 1400. Okay, so is that what you're asking me? Is
Yeah.
how what evidence we have about that since it was prehistoric?
Yeah.
Okay, or that's my best way of explaining it. Yeah, these were obviously prehistoric folks, and the site was abandoned long gone, long before any Anglo settlers even moved into the area. So, you know, it's not like we have the accounts of settlers or explorers that tell us about these people, nor was there any written records about them since it was prehistoric. But what we do know is based on the artifacts that we find in the archaeological records.